Hello, my friend, and welcome back. Today, I'd like to talk about putting yourself in a state of the reality that you want to create. And this has been something that has kind of been popping up for me, and I have recently just kind of like connected the dots. So, if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I really love his work, and if you're not familiar, I highly encourage you to check him out. But one of the main things that he likes to reinforce is how the mind doesn't know the difference between something that is actually happening and something that you are imagining to be happening. And this can work for us and it can work against us. It can work against us if we continue to relive, bad things that happened, or continue to imagine scenarios that haven't happened that aren't necessarily aligned with what we actually want to happen. So, but we, like everything else, we can change our perspective and we can then start to make this work for us. We can start to put ourselves in the state that we want to be in the emotion of the way that we would imagine ourselves to feel if we were to have succeeded in creating the perfect life or the life that we want to be living. Life is never going to be perfect. And part of the dots that I'm starting to connect that with, so yes, you can imagine yourself being in your dream car or the dream house, or what you would feel like after a day of fulfilling work. Anything that you really would want, you can start to imagine and put yourself into that emotional state, because that was going to help align you with the vibration of what you want to create, because we know that we are vibrational beings. But part of the dots that I am starting to connect is that concept in connection with the divine, in connection with faith, and in connection with gratitude. And I am consciously wanting to put myself in more of a state of gratitude, servitude to the divine, faithfulness, and in a place of worship and awe. And there are small things that I am doing that are helping to put myself into that state. I'm reading that book, Jesus Calling, like I mentioned before, but I have actually also changed up my meditation stance. I don't know the technical name for this stance, but I did see it from another spiritual person, and I was like, oh, let me try that. And I actually really like it, and it's where you sit with, I have a meditation pillow. You sit with the meditation pillow actually between your legs, and you sit on it with kind of like you're sitting on your knees, like sitting on your legs, if that makes sense, with your feet underneath you. But the pillow actually takes the pressure off of your knees and your legs. So it is actually surprisingly comfortable, but I like it because it is kind of the dog's here. Come on. It is a reminder for me to be in that place of faith and worship, that kind of on your knees, that kind of bringing you to your knees, and not in a bad way, not in, life brings you to your knees a lot, but in a daily reminder of my connection with the divine and how I am a small piece of the divine. So I never forget that I am a small piece of the divine, but I also never forget that I am a small piece, and that the divine is obviously much larger and this amazing coordinator and creator of all things that I am a little piece of. So I really like that because it gives me that daily reminder. And I really like that in connection with the emotion and putting your mind in that state, because I always, regardless of what is going on in my life, I always want to be in that grateful vibration as much as possible, because that is where the perspective changes. That is where you're able to be in any situation and you're able to still maintain your faith, is when you are able to be in that state of gratitude. And then I am, can also work on being in that imagined state of all, and just feeling so blessed in my life, and just feeling like, everything is so easy and coming to me with ease and grace. And the ease and grace is something that, I want to be honest, is something that I have been struggling with. And that is part of why I am doing these things, to help put myself back in a state of faith and gratitude and put things into perspective, because it feels like a lie sometimes that we were meant to live in the state of ease and grace. It feels like a lie. And the reason why I say that is because it's so frustrating that your path takes a pivot at any point, and it can be a pivot that you choose, but you have to choose it because you've gotten clarity around it, and you're just like, why did I spend so much time? Like, why didn't this clarity come sooner? Why did I spend so much time spinning my wheels? I'm supposed to live with ease and grace. Ease, flow, grace is what that sign says. And that is what the divine promises you if you follow him, follow the divine, and this life of ease and grace and flow. But it doesn't feel like that at all. So that is something that I am struggling with. And that is part of the reason, that struggle is part of the reason why I need to consciously put myself back into the faith of the divine. Because at the end of the day, I do know it's only my human ego that experiences and feels that frustration, but I'm human and I have an ego and I feel frustrated, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes when, especially when you're in the spiritual community and you just see people living these lives of ease and grace, and everything just comes to them so easily, and they're like, just imagine it, I just made this vision board and everything's coming true. We also need to remind ourselves that social media only gives us a very small snippet of things, and that a lot of people, even spiritual influencers, are afraid to be honest. Because how can you want to follow someone for manifestation if they're telling you that, oh, well, actually, it's not really manifesting the way I thought it would, or the way, or as soon as I thought it would, and I think that part of that honesty and part of that rawness and realness is something that we need in this world. Because just because, life is not all love and light and fairy tales and unicorns, doesn't mean it's not a divine life. And because it's only our judgment that deciphers what is a fairy tale and unicorns and what is not. The divine doesn't think that way. The divine doesn't think of good or bad or light or dark or, whatever it is. The divine just is, and just is being. And the divine is love, unconditional love at the end of the day, but we might have a misconception of what that is. Unconditional love is not unconditional bliss or pleasure. So that is something that I am consciously working on, and that is part of the reason why I am doing these little things, and I want to consciously focus on putting myself in a state of love and in a state of bliss and in a state of everything is perfectly fine. And just because I feel like things in my life aren't going that great doesn't mean that it's not serving a purpose, that it's not perfect, and it's not where I'm meant to be. So I'm going to continue to grow where I'm planted, to work with what I got. I'm continuing to surrender to the pivots that the divine puts in my life, trusting that they came at perfect timing, and if those pivots were to have come sooner, I would not have been as ready for them. So that is our message for today. That is my message for today. And that is how I want to go forth. And I encourage you to do the same. Let's start tricking our minds into thinking that we are living our best life. And so we can hopefully attract vibrationally our best life. So let's try it. So my name's Anne. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.